another Generation 2 Plasticon review! Woo! Welcome back to another Plasticon review. Today we're going to cover some more Generation 2. When I'm talking Generation 2, I'm talking Generation 2 Decepticon Missile Base. It's also known as Takeoff. This is Takeoff in its entire base setup mode. It's got plenty of storage from Micromasters all over it. Not to mention the GoBots actually fit very, very well on this toy as well. And if you take a good look at it, it's just got a lot of detail. There's so many computer panels and different little things that are kind of picked out throughout the entire thing. There's just absolutely amazing. The detail and the time put into this toy is absolutely superb. Taking a closer look at Takeoff, I mean, it's a very, very large base. I'm pretty far away from it right now because, you know, these city bots are really difficult for me to film because they're just huge. So that's why I tend to do a little closer look at them. But, you know, it's really neat. He's actually got little ramps here that you can take your Micromasters and drive them down, which is kind of cool because I like the idea. It's got these little gold ramps, which are awesome. It even has one back there. And then it's also got the rocket itself, which is sitting on a, could be a helipad, but I also use it for a rocket pad. Let's take a quick close look at the rocket. The rocket itself actually has translucent plastic, which is very, very nice. Even has translucent plastic laser gun, which is kind of neat. And what's actually interesting is the entire top of the rocket itself is actually translucent plastic. It's just painted on the inside as silver, and it does have a little silver rubbery kind of nose cone, which is pretty cool. And the transformation on this rocket, it's kind of crazy what this thing here actually does, but I'll kind of get into that here in a little bit. But looking at him without the rocket in the way, he still has a lot of mass to him. And take good old Astro Train here, and we'll put Astro Train here so you guys can see how he scales with that. And obviously, good old Blast Off, because this is the missile base. They're all going to be in charge of like air support and, you know, any type of other means of taking care of things up in orbit. And this actually works very, very well. I do like how this looks. Just decided to put these guys here in their shuttle modes, and it actually looks really, really good with these next to him. He actually stands very well on here, which is kind of nice. So, you know, he does actually stand by himself, which is absolutely awesome. I do love the fact that he'll do that. I'm removing my Micromasters out of the way here, but I do like the way he actually just kind of sits here, which is cool. You know, it really kind of invokes the whole Takeoff thing, like it sending shuttles into the atmosphere and rockets into the atmosphere and missiles and such, because, you know, the Decepticons are always up to no good. But, you know, the star of this entire thing is Takeoff himself. So let's take a look at him. Here's Generation 2 Takeoff, and he's just like a little robot, tiny little guy, not very big, has tons of little details around him. I do like him a lot. He's a very, very cool little space shuttle-y type of robot, and, you know, you can't have enough space shuttle robots. I'm sorry, it doesn't happen. But this is very, very neat. I do like how it looks. He's got a very, very cool, very menacing, very Generation 2 kind of feel to him, because, you know, he fits the universe. He just does. And, you know, he has a very, very easy transformation. So let's get into that real quick. And there's Takeoff in shuttle mode, and he looks very cool. I do love how this little guy looks. He's got nice G2 emblem right there on the top with the red windows, and he looks like a miniature version, I would say, of, you know, almost like Blastoff. You know, Blastoff's obviously much bigger, and then you got good old Astro Train over here, which is enormous compared to him. I mean, he could usually be, he could almost be like a reconnaissance drone for good old Astro Train here, which, you know, I love it. It's just amazing. I'm not hating on this at all. It's one of the coolest things I swear I have in my collection. But, you know, I say that about a lot of stuff because, you know, I'm a bit biased when it comes to that. But, you know, space shuttles and things that go into space and stuff like that, I love that kind of thing. And, you know, this whole small little shuttle, well, this whole thing turns into something else here. So let's work on this ginormous missile base and see what else we can create with it. Now, before we get into the actual transformation of Takeoff here, I want to actually kind of show some of the play features he has, because he has a lot of play features. Obviously, you can take your G2 GoBots, but they'll kind of fit, but they really don't fit completely very well in here because it's mainly made from Micromasters, because Micromasters tend to work better with this scale. Take one of his little defense guys, and he kind of sits in there. He's just got this radar dish that sticks out too far, but, you know, they actually just they sit in there. That's just what they do. This is a forward gun emplacement, and they actually have the larger gun back, or not the larger, but the command center, which I put Takeoff in. It's kind of like, you know, the hub of the entire thing is controlled by this whole station that's up here. And what's cool about this whole thing is the fact that a lot of things are modular and you can move things around. These ramps here actually pop off, and you can move them anywhere you really need to. There are certain places they pop on, so it's anywhere a connection like that would be available. You can do that with, like, I can move this entire thing here, front here if I felt like, because, you know, that's just what it does. Or if I really want to get crafty with it, I can move this here, and now you actually have to have like a bridge to get it over to this. And it's kind of cool how you can do that. You have a lot of different play options with this, and that's what's absolutely awesome about Takeoff. Takeoff is cool. One of my favorite. I just love this thing. Let's take these little Micromasters out of the way here so that way I can show you a little bit more of the stuff that it does. It also has a couple little refinery looking things here that are sticking up. Well, these are actually guns. They're molded in gold plastic, and they do plug in. These little 5mm ports, they're all over. And you can take this here if you want. This is another old gun. It's molded in silver. You can plug it here if you want. And then you can take this whole crazy radar thing here. It's got some red picked out in here. It's kind of cool. And you can put it on the back half of that. So you can have a bit more of a command post. This is a very, very, almost literally the identical toy as Countdown, except for this is Decepticon, so it's a completely different color scheme. And it's got some little quirks here and there that Countdown does not have. Countdown normally has like a an arm that comes out that you can use. This doesn't actually have that arm. And obviously the rocket being completely translucent plastic, which is really cool. And just stuff like that, little tiny things like that, that really, I don't know, makes this set feel different. He does happen to have a rear ramp area back here, so you can take a Micromaster and drive it all the way down if you want to. This is kind of cool, which I like that. I've always liked the option that, you know, you can kind of come up here and do whatever stuff they need to do. And this entire console here just looks absolutely amazing. It's got so much detail in it. It's just kind of insane. I can't get over how crazy the detail is on that console. It's just got a lot going on there. I mean, it's a very, very gold thing, and this gold is very striking. It just kind of really makes things pop, especially when you decide to put a Micromaster up there with it. Looks pretty good. I love it. I just think this is amazing. But anyway, we have that, but you also have what I call the pit. The pit is the larger area located. I'm going to have to pull this closer so you can see it. The pit is located right behind all this gray stuff, right down here. And this is just mainly a gigantic control bay. You have plenty of places here you can put Micromasters all over the place under here. This is more or less like a control center for the missions that they're going to plan on sending out, especially to go against the Autobots trying to, you know, conserve more energon or spoil their plans for the day or the week or whatever. You know, it's kind of cool that you can just set these little guys in here. And I like the fact that, you know, it's got different, the colors are just absolutely striking on this. I just love this set because of that. But anyway, let's quit waffling so much about little things like this. And by the way, there is gold computer panels under here. If you're actually looking, that's exactly what that is. It's underneath. There's more gold computer panels and pipes and gizmos and such. And another thing I really do want to point out, this thing's molded in black, and it's very, very, very difficult to pick it up on camera. But all the portions back here in the very back, and all along here, and even in here, all have like some kind of like computer stuff molded in them for like even the garage things. They didn't even leave out detail on that. It's there. It's got detail all over it, which is pretty awesome, I have to say. I mean, it's just an amazing piece, and I absolutely love this thing. But anyway, let's quit waffling about that, and let's get this thing into its alternate mode. Taking a look at Takeoff in his, this is pretty much the mobile missile base mode. It is just absolutely amazing how much just comes out. It's got all this gold picked out here with the silver and the gold on the wheels, and it just looks absolutely striking. I love this thing. It's got so much detail. Not to mention the little bit of red where the boosters actually go for the rocket. and it's really, really cool. I just love the colors of this thing, even with like this kind of a weird color gold going on here. This is more like a brown, which is interesting. And I think it's just absolutely superb. Just all the molding detail on this thing, it's just absolutely amazing. But let's check out that rocket that we were talking about just a while ago. Here's Takeoff's rocket missile unit, and you can actually take him himself and put him inside the control console for the rocket, or maybe he's arming it to get it ready so that way it can go do a bombardment on an Autobot base, or maybe even some type of civilians on a faraway planet just trying to blow things up, because that's what Decepticons do, guys. They just do this kind of thing. Anyway, the silver just absolutely pops, not to mention this whole translucent plastic. I love this stuff. It's like almost a brown. It's kind of weird, but I like it. Anyway, let's go ahead and take him out of there real quick, and I'll show you a few gimmicks that this rocket does. First thing it does, obviously, it's more or less, I call this its maintenance stance, because it's got all the panels and such open, so that way you can work on it or do whatever you need to do. I mean, even if you have the gun out, it's like, okay, maybe they're trying to repair the gun, or they're preparing the gun, or they just had to get it out of the way to do any other kind of maintenance on the inside of the rocket. But it does happen to have the ability, just like Countdown the Rocket, to split in half, just like this. And now, I call this more or less, this is more or less base mode for the rocket. It's got a more of a wider stance, and honestly, to me, this would be like if they were going to launch this, to use this as maybe a command module or something like that to go against the Decepticons or something. This would be the way to do it. They would send out a little ship like this and then have it just, you know, drop down, so that way they can set everything up, and then be like, oh, okay, we're going to attack here or whatever, you know. And this is just kind of like maybe like a little central outpost base that they have set up, which is kind of neat, because, you know, it's got its own defenses with the laser guns on it, not to mention area for storage. Now, storage on this thing primarily is for these two little gold guns, but you can, if you want to, set it down completely to the ground, and also use it to maybe stage a few Micromasters that will actually fit. This guy won't fit, he's a little big, but there are some that will actually fit inside this. So you can actually store up to 3 Micromasters in this thing, which is kind of cool. But let's go ahead and put these guys in the little storage slots, because that's where they go. It's also a good way to keep your parts together. And then we'll transform this thing into its rocket mode. It's a very successful looking rocket. I like how it looks. It's got so much molded detail throughout it. It's just kind of crazy. And it's kind of weird how, like, the bits and pieces that's supposed to be the parts that hold the toy itself together kind of play in as, like, okay, that could be like some kind of mechanical mechanism, or maybe that's some kind of radome, or maybe that's where they have like the sensor arrays or whatever, you know, you guys want to come up with. It's very, very awesome, and I do love this thing just because of the fact that it's just got that translucent plastic. It really, really pops. It's just absolutely amazing. And standing him next to good old Astro Train looks pretty good. I think so. It's too bad I can't really attach Astro Train to it, because I mean, if I could, you know, imagine what that would look like, guys. That'd be so cool. But anyway, let's quit waffling about this rocket, and let's check out what it all looks like put together. And here's Takeoff in his full-on setup to launch the rocket mode, and it's absolutely amazing what this thing does. It's got so much detail, and there's so many little things it does on top of this. I just love how this toy just has so many things going on. It's just superb. I love the silver, I love the black, I love the gold. It screams Decepticon, and it's just amazing. One other little thing I want to look at, though, is this thing actually has one more little gimmick. I'm going to show you guys what that does. And this is the gimmick it does. It actually has a working elevator, which he's kind of hard to stand up, but you know, every now and then I can just, you know, maybe hang onto his wing or something, and then just pull the elevator all the way up. And it does a zippy sound. Zip. And you can come up here, and then, you know, maybe duck underneath the antenna thing here, and then go and get inside the rocket, so that way he can take off to another land. And this will obviously close up, which is kind of cool. I do like this. This is a very, very awesome little gimmick. It's a gimmick that wasn't even really necessary, but it's there, and I love it. I'm a big fan of elevators on things. I like elevators being on toys, because to me, elevators is kind of a lost thing. You don't really see many of them anymore, which is kind of cool. And I do like the fact that it all kind of plugs in. Now, this whole gantry here, if you want to, you can tip it back. But normally what I try to do is move this piece here out just a tad. Sometimes it wants to pop open that's fine. I mean, it's rickety. What do you expect? But, you know, I'll move that back and then be able to just, you know, take the entire rocket and then blast off or take off into orbit. And the cool thing is these actually fit pretty snug on there, so he isn't just going to fall over, which is kind of nice. I do like that about this toy. It's got at least got some kind of feature that does that. Now, my final thoughts on Takeoff is he's an absolute superb piece of engineering, especially for the Decepticons. Although this is literally a recolor and some slight retooling and slight remolding here and there of Countdown, this thing absolutely screams Decepticon. It's very, very cool how you can actually put all the bits and pieces on it in its base mode and then kind of swap out here. Now, there are a few bits that you're ended up kind of left with, which are the ramps, which are these ramp units. All these ramp units. This does attach to it on the other side of the tower, but if you don't want it on there, you don't always have to have it on there. And the other thing you're left with is this helipad. But to be honest, you can probably take this stuff here and create like another small base or something like that with it, so that way it's not necessarily just kind of just sitting or floating. Sometimes these bits will end up like in a bin or something like that, but honestly, I think this entire toy just absolutely screams amazing. This has been Plasticon. This has been yet another Generation 2 review, and I'll catch you guys around because I have plenty more coming your way. And that's it for now. Bye.